The number one reason why doctors actually burn out, it's because they have that feeling of lack of autonomy and control. Locums flips that on its head.
Is this really an argument that you are making specifically for emergency physicians, or do you think this is a wider argument for shift workers, or is it for all physicians, or like how broadly do you view that kind of vision?
Yeah, so being an emergency physician myself, I live and breathe emergency medicine. I can absolutely speak to emergency physicians without any hesitation or doubt. But I know several other specialties that are thriving in locums as well. GI does very well with locums. Anesthesia is super hot. Radiology is insanely hot right now. I have a friend who's a medical oncologist doing almost 7 figures doing locums, right? Making more than double than what he would make as an employee. So just about any specialty you think about, there's opportunities for locums that can free you from the medical matrix, as I call it.
Ali, how did you get started in this? You mentioned you started out, I guess, right after residency as a W-2, as an employee of somebody else, right?
Yes. So when I graduated in 2014, I just went with what everybody else was doing, taking a W-2 job. And I was quite happy with my actual job itself. And then, I just started picking up some locum shifts on the side just because I wanted to pay off my house that I just bought. I was doing some loans that I had accrued, obviously, during med school. So I was like, let me just make some more cash on the side. Not intending for this to be anything. I was just like, hey, I'm just going to work on the side. And then after like 4 or 5 months of doing this, I realized that a week worth of locum shifts, I was making more than an entire month of my full-time job as an employee.
Is it correct that locums kind of always means travel?
Great question. I've experimented with multiple different types of ways to do this. This year, I've done something that I absolutely love, and I don't anticipate going back to anything different. I work one block of 7 or 8 shifts in a row in the ER. I work one block, I stay in a hotel. It's 2.5 hours away from me driving. So I drive down there, I stay there for a week, I accrue a bunch of hotel points. I have over 1 million Hilton Honors points now. It translates to over $20,000 in just credit card rewards. I stay there for a week, so I do 3 days or 3 or 4 days, followed by 3 or 4 nights. So that way I get like a 24-hour sort of, time off in between. That's that transition, that shift. And then I go home, and then I'm off for 4 weeks.
Welcome to How I Doctor, where we're bringing joy back to medicine. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Ali Chaudhary, a board-certified emergency physician, entrepreneur, and the driving force behind Locums United. After more than a decade in the trenches of medicine, Ali shifted gears. He built a Locums tenens platform that aims to bring back transparency, fairness, autonomy to how physicians are staffed and compensated. For anyone not familiar, locum tenens describes physicians who take on short-term assignments. It might be for weeks, it might be for months. Hospitals, clinics, and practices use locums physicians to cover staffing gaps. Maybe it's maternity leave or illness leave, bridging between hires, or handling the seasonal surges in patient demand. Ali is the #1 locum tenens authority, and for good reason. He's lived both sides of the career path, working as a hospital physician, then jumping fully into locums work and launching ventures in healthcare staffing and virtual care. I'm so excited to dig into Ali's story today, how he built the platform, how he's helping other physicians reclaim control over their careers. We'll talk contract negotiations, break down some of the biggest myths about locums work, and review the strategies that can turn locums into a sustainable career path. With that, Ali, welcome to How I Doctor.
Awesome, Graham. Well, thank you so much for having me on the podcast, man. It's been a long time coming. I'm a big fan of your work, actually. MD Calc, I've been using it for years. And when I found out that you were the one who had helped co-found that, I was super stoked. And so really excited to be here. Thank you.
For people who can't see, Ali is wearing, I think, one of the best swag and merch pieces. We'll do some clips on social media, but his T-shirt, which he was giving away at our emergency medicine conference last month, says W-2 LOL. Obviously, a sign that you would argue 1099 is the way to go. Is that right, Ali?
Absolutely. And did you get a shirt when you stopped by, or were you not able to get one?
No, I'll get one next time.
All right, I'll get one for you. Yeah, so for me, I argue that emergency medicine, the way that it's being practiced today, is not a sustainable career anymore. The standard W-2 model is not sustainable. Our specialty specifically, but even medicine in general, but being specific about emergency medicine, has such a high burnout rate that
Yeah,
it's almost not a question of if it's going to happen, it's a question about when.
yeah.
So I argue that as a W-2 employee, because I was a W-2 employee when I first started out as a after graduate residency, you have little to no you have no control, and you have very little control over your schedule, how when you work and when you don't. And the number one reason why doctors actually burn out, it's because they have that feeling of lack of autonomy and control. Locums flips that on its head. Now, instead of now, what I do now as a locum is I schedule my life events first on my calendar for the next few months, and then I fit in my work blocks when I want to. Instead of as a W-2 employee, you're just handed your schedule and you have to try and fit in life events and obviously miss a lot of things as well as a result. So that's my argument. And for me, I'm living a very fulfilling life outside of medicine, which makes me very fulfilled inside of medicine.
Ollie, that's a great answer. My first question was literally, if you had to sell a skeptical colleague on locums, what would you say? But I think you literally answered it right there.
I mean, there's a lot to say. I mean, it's I was talking to a pediatric emergency physician the other day, and she was interested in a job, and I just showed her my schedule. She's like, I had some family problems at home. There's someone she
Yeah,
had to take care of, and she just felt like guilty for not being home enough. And I literally showed her my schedule over the last few months, and she saw these massive chunks of time off, 3, 4, 5 weeks at a time off.
yeah.
And her jaw just dropped. She's like, "Is this for real? Like, are you like just playing me for a fool?" I'm like, "No, this is my reality.
Yeah.
This is my new normal, right?" So
Well, Ollie, I think
I think,
it's fascinating. Is this really an argument that you are making specifically for emergency physicians, or do you think this is a wider argument for shift workers, or is it for all physicians, or like how broadly do you view that kind of vision?
yeah. So being an emergency physician myself, I live and breathe emergency medicine. I can absolutely speak to emergency physicians without any hesitation or doubt. But I know several other specialties that are thriving in locums as well. GI does very well with locums.
Hmm.
Anesthesia is super hot.
Yeah.
Radiology is insanely hot right now. CRNAs, which aren't physicians, but they're very hot as well. I have a friend who's a medical oncologist doing almost seven figures, um, doing locums, right? Making more than double than what he would make as an employee. So just about any specialty you think about, like there's opportunities for locums that can free you from the medical matrix, as I call it.
That's fascinating to hear. I think the two that surprised me the most are GI and oncology, because I guess I view those specialties as needing some level of like consistency in care, and those specialists are building relationships over time. But am I wrong there?
No, the reality is there's just not enough docs to go around. Yeah, I mean, there's just such a massive shortage. So, there's no, that's not a mystery anymore. So these doctors are leveraging their skills, especially for GI. It's a more procedural based specialty, and so there's definitely a demand for that. Every hospital I go to is short of GI docs. They don't have an ERCP doc, and they're just transferring patients out, and all this. This happens quite commonly at a lot of the sites that I work at that are a couple hours outside of the big cities. Hemon kind of caught me by surprise. I wasn't really sure where that was coming from until I connected with an influencer on Instagram who is a hematologist oncologist, and we actually just did a podcast about a month ago in Cali. And so he was kind of talking about his story and how locums has been very fulfilling for him as well.
Ollie, how did you get started in this? You mentioned you started out, I guess, right after residency as a W-2, as an employee of somebody else, right?
Yes. So when I graduated in 2014, I just went with what everybody else was doing, taking a W-2 job, and I was quite happy with my actual job itself. Like my coworkers were amazing, my colleagues, my boss, the director, the nursing staff was awesome. So I wasn't like necessarily upset about my work environment at all. Very supportive. But it was just the fact that I had no control, and it was a light bulb moment that I had when my one of my friends said about a year in, "Hey Ali, I thought you were gonna have more time off to do more things than you do right now because it sounds like you're still pretty busy."
Yeah, I mean
And
that's
then
kind of the pitch from emergency medicine is like when you're on, you're on, when you're off, right?
off,
Yeah,
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 yeah, which is nice, but like your schedule throughout the week, it fluctuates, and especially
yeah,
as a new
yeah.
grad. If when you're not like a senior who's controlling the schedule, making the schedule, you kind of get the short end of the schedule. So nights into yeah, late night shifts, or what do you call them, the swing shifts, morning shifts, just everything just kind of all jumbled all over the place. And I was getting burnt out. I'm like, man, you're right. This is kind of like not as good as I thought it was going to be. And then, I just started picking up some locum shifts on the side just because I wanted to pay off my house that I just bought. I was doing and some loans that I had accrued obviously during med school. So I was like, let me just make some more cash on the side.
Yeah.
Not intending for this to be anything. I was just like, hey, I'm just gonna work on the side. And then after like 4 or 5 months of doing this, I realized that a week worth of locum shifts, I was making more than an entire month of my full-time job as an employee.
Wow.
That was my second light bulb moment. I'm like, wait a
Yep.
minute. Right, like the math isn't mathing here. So
Yeah.
now I have a choice to make. Am I going to value my time, uh, devalue myself by working twice as hard to make the same amount, or I can either make double or work half as much and make the same amount. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And so I had to come. It was a hard decision because I actually liked a lot the people I was working with, and again, this very supportive department. I actually really liked it. And that was a very hard decision for me. But ultimately, I realized that I had to do what was best for me and my family, and I decided to kind of make that switch over to locums.
Yeah. Ali, I think locums can feel kind of risky to some. Like, the one of the many benefits I would say of employed W-2 work is you're kind of guaranteed shifts. The job probably comes with benefits. Maybe it's got a 401k and it probably has health insurance, hopefully. Um, what do you say when someone says, I like the stability of my W-2 job where I've worked there for 10 years, and maybe they do have a great practice environment like you did as well?
Absolutely. I get this question all the time, and I'm
Yeah,
laughing just because it's such a common myth. I argue that locum tenens is actually more stable than W-2 employment. Now, it may not be 100% the case across the board. Like, for example, a place like Kaiser, where they have established hospitals and systems,
sure.
you're, employed there and you're not, no one else is taking over that contract, right? But I'll tell you, about a month ago, I spoke to another physician, and on the East Coast, she is an academic physician, emergency medicine. She worked for this hospital system that and was teaching residents called MCP Hahnemann
Yeah,
in Philly.
I've heard of that. Yeah, yeah,
She was there for many years, and then they just shut down the hospital. There was, I don't want to go into details about that, but then she transitioned over to Crozier, was an academic physician there, worked there for several years, and then they shut down.
yeah.
Not to mention, so that's one example. And then another example of the hospital system that's just about an hour and a half down here in Delaware. Independent group that's been there for 30 years.
Wow.
Hospital decides a year and a half ago that we're taking you guys in as employees, take it or leave it. Right? I can't tell you how many numerous times I've heard from directly in my DMs, dozens, if not hundreds of times, just things that I'm seeing over the last 10 years myself. So you have no control when you're an employee at all.
Yeah, yeah,
Any contract management group can come in, the hospital can choose to employ you anytime, and then you're just stuck having to either take a contract that maybe is not what you initially signed up for, or you have to figure out what are we going to do next. When you're already established there, your kids are going to school, your family maybe is there, you have extended family there, and you haven't played the locum game yet and don't know how to play that. Now you're a sitting duck, right? Whereas with locums, I can live anywhere I want on this earth.
yeah.
I can live in Portugal, fly back for a week of shifts, and then just go back, right? And then I'll usually have a couple of different sites that I work at that I'm credentialed at least two or three different sites. So I'm diversifying my risk.
Yep.
So instead of it being like being married to one site, and if they say, "Hey, we don't need you anymore," I'm stuck. No, I'm always credentialed at two or three different facilities. That way, if anyone decides to, that they get fully staffed, I'm not losing revenue. So that's my
And you
argument.
are, yeah, and you are, because you're at a couple places, you've got some fallback, and I would imagine people occasionally email and say, hey, you're not on the schedule, but are you free? Could you pick up this shift? Or does anybody want this shift? I want a day off or something like that. And you can then, again, going back
Absolutely.
to control, you have the control to say, I'm actually not doing anything the next 48 hours. Maybe I'll just go work and get my higher hourly rate than you were maybe making as a W-2.
Absolutely. And especially as a locum, I tell doctors this as well. Listen, if you're an employee, you should not be picking up extra PRN shifts at your own hospital or at any hospital down the road. That's usually W-2.
Yeah.
So doctors don't know how to, like, we understand basic finance, and that is hurting us severely. So this is the analogy I give. It's like having a bucket of water and you have large holes at the bottom. Now you could add more shifts to the bucket or more water, but it's just going to keep going out as fast as it came in because you're still being taxed significantly the
Yeah.
same way that you would be. Now, 1099 income is different, right? The business income is different because you get to keep more of what you make because you can use that pre-tax income for business expenses and whatever else other things that are legitimate and legal, right? And so Just this very basic understanding, as a locum, you are a CEO of your own locum practice.
Yeah.
You're no longer an employee of anyone else. You're the CEO of a locum practice, a small business, which the U.S. tax code is actually designed to be more advantageous towards. You're not a W-2 employee. So I actually argue, it was funny. I was sitting down for dinner with one of my friends. He's a real estate agent in Philadelphia, and he sees all my stuff on Instagram and all that. He's like,
Yeah.
Ali, let me ask you, I have a question for you. Why don't all ER doctors do locums?
Yeah.
I don't get it. He's like, I don't understand. I'm like, I
Because
don't
to
either.
him, it's so obvious the
Yeah,
benefits.
yeah,
Because I would imagine I mean, real estate people do this same thing. They're the CEO of their own little real estate group, and they get all the
yes,
tax write offs for that stuff as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ali, is it correct that locums kind of always means travel? I mean, are you grouping shifts if you're working whatever 2 hours from where you live in Pennsylvania? Are you grouping your shifts together and then staying in hotels? Like, how are you practically
Yeah.
doing your work?
Great question. I've experimented with multiple different types of ways to do this. Most this year, I've done something that I absolutely love, and I don't anticipate going back to anything different. I work one block of 7 or 8 shifts in a row in the ER. So what I do is I'll work
At one
three or
hospital?
in one hospital.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm credentialed at 2 or 3, but I currently just pick up shifts at one site that I know has been giving me consistent shifts. I'm still credentialed at a couple other sites. I work one block. I stay in a hotel. It's 2.5 hours away from me driving. So I drive down there. I stay there for a week. I accrue a bunch of hotel points. I have over 1 million Hilton Honors points
Sure.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, which it translates to over $20,000 in just credit card rewards,
Yeah. And gets you
approximately.
status and all that other stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
So when I want to travel, I stay in five-star hotel for free with my family, right? So,
Right.
anyways, I stay there for a week. So I do 3 days or 3 or 4 days, followed by 3 or 4 nights. So that way I get like a 24-hour sort of time off in between. That's that transition, that shift. And then I go home, and then I'm off for 4 weeks. Before I used to just do like 2 blocks of like maybe 5 or 6 shifts in a row,
Yeah.
depending on how many shifts I was doing. So that way I would go down twice a month. But this time I've just done one. But most of my jobs have been within 2 to 3 hours of driving distance. I've
Okay.
had two over the last 10 years that were flying. One was in Michigan, one was in California. Those are short-lived just because the flights were a little bit much for me, and I needed to kind of be home to start to work on my business and family and things like that. So
Yeah.
most of my sites are within a couple of hours driving distance.
Yeah. You mentioned, having a family right now. For physicians with families, kids, can locums actually make life easier for them?
Absolutely. It's to me like I'm gonna give you something that's gonna blow your mind right now.
Okay.
So, are you ready?
I'm sitting down. I'm sitting down.
So check this out. I did a webinar last night, and when I laid this out, it was the first time I actually laid it out like this, and people were just blown away. So it depends on what you want. So right now, like I said, I'm optimizing for time off. Right,
Yeah.
I'm still working 8 shifts, and I'm still on target to make around $380,000 this year, working 8 shifts in a row, and that being done a bit off for a month. Okay. So that's 22 to 23 days off a month. Now, see, on average, when I was a W-2 employee, I was working about 14 shifts a month.
Sure.
That delta is 6. I'm working 6 less shifts, and I'm still actually making more than I was as a
Yeah.
W-2 employee.
Yeah.
Multiply that by 12. That's 72 extra days off in one year. That's
Yeah.
over 2 months.
Yep.
Multiply that by 10. That's almost 2 extra years off
Yeah. A free time you can
of
spend it
time
however you want. Yeah.
that you're not in the hospital. You can do whatever you want with that.
Yeah.
So whether it's time with your family, which a lot of doctors say they value their family, we do. And whether it's traveling, a lot of us want to travel, do the thing. A lot of us want to do what's like a side hustle, so a business, whatever. That's the only way I was able to launch an 8-figure business.
Yeah.
And I was able to write a book, and I was able to start a podcast, and all this fun stuff that I do now. Right. So if you want to actually spend more like focused real time with your family, there's no better way.
Yeah.
Yes, you may have to travel a little bit. I'm not home for 8 days,
Yep.
but guess what? I'm home for 23, 22 days. And overall, 2 years over the course of a 10-year sort of timeline. So we don't think about these long-term effects and how these things compound in our life. We just think about, oh, I want to come home at night.
Yeah.
Are you really the best version of yourself when you come home after like a 12-hour shift that you
Yeah.
just got,
Sure.
destroyed? We have a mom of 5 children that works with us. She enjoys locum. She prefers locum. She just transitioned to full-time locums now because she said, look, between shifts, I get to decompress and be
Yeah.
at the hotel. and not have to be on the moment I walk through the door when I get home. But now when I'm done with my block of shifts, guess what? I get to be available fully for my family.
I'm full mom, partner,
Yeah,
spouse, whatever those roles need to
yeah,
be. Yeah.
yeah. And I've had my time to decompress and just relax between shifts because our work, man, no one gets it at home.
No, I know.
No one in
I mean,
society gets it.
the thing that I always find funny is like I whenever I work a night shift, um, if if I'm working whatever 2 or 3 nights in a row, that's actually like 4 or 5 nights in a row. Well,
Yep.
not 4 or 5 days of
Days.
time because
Hmm.
the I sleep pre-night shift. So there goes literally half a day. And I'm
Hmm.
also like less productive because I don't drink coffee during the morning because I need to be
Yep.
able to take a nap. And then the post night shift conversion back to days again, I'm kind of a zombie. I'm a terrible husband. I'm only partially awake. I'm
Yeah.
really irritable. I'm
But the expectations
emotional,
are there. The
Yeah,
expectations are there, though. No one's going
absolutely.
to
Yeah.
give you a free pass for if you're at home, you're at home. So you're expected to do what it is that you need to do. And no one's giving you a pass just because, hey, you're recovering from your night shifts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so,
Totally. No one
you
else
know, and
understands it or
no one,
expects it or yeah,
no.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Ali, one of the things I really appreciate you is how transparent and open you are about just the money piece of it. Because I mean, honestly, that's a big piece of I think people's curiosity and anxiety and fear. For somebody who's listening, they hear more money or maybe the same amount of money, but there's also expenses. I assume you or that other person, they need to have someone that's helping with their kids. Maybe it's their spouse, maybe it's a
Yep.
nanny.
Yep.
They have to have their own health insurance. They have to have their own car. Like, how do those expenses add up, and how do you think about things that way?
No, absolutely. I think that you have to again start thinking like a business, right? And so the expenses for family wise, like yes, you can certainly get your spouse some help during those days that you're away, right? I think that's an important thing if you have kids, and for health insurance and car and all that stuff. A lot of these things, if you work with a savvy tax advisor and a CPA, in many cases, and this isn't tax advice. I'm not a financial
Yeah, of
advisor
course.
here, so
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
just disclaimer. But in many cases, those are write-offs from your business. So meaning that
right.
you get to use your pre-taxed income to pay for your benefits or some of your benefits, right? Um, so it's again, if you start thinking of like a business, there's actually many ways, and I generally advise doctors to don't try to figure this out on your own.
Yeah,
Hire a tax professional, a CPA, and a tax advisor because them two together can help maximize your and reducing your taxable income and to making sure that you're using your money wisely towards your business. And there's many ways to just do that and still come out on top. I have a whole graphic that I did for several talks that I did. Just on average, a locum doctor comes away working the same number of hours, making at least 130,000 extra as an ER doc,
as
minimum.
take home in the bank account.
Minimum,
Wow.
minimum. Now, again, there's variables, right? This
Yeah,
isn't like
yeah,
don't take this and say, put Ali said this, but on average, you can easily, and that's over 10 years. That's
yeah,
$1.5 million
yeah,
almost.
yeah,
20 years, that's almost 2.5 million plus, right? That's a lot of money.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that funds children's college. That does a lot of,
the vacation home that you
yeah,
wanted, maybe you
yeah,
want to help your parents with something, maybe you wanted to buy that nice sports car for yourself and your family. I mean, I don't know, whatever it is. Like we all have dreams, we all have aspirations, and why not maximize your earning potential?
yeah. I mean, I always try to encourage anybody who has a side hustle or another business or is an entrepreneur, like find a good accountant, CPA, tax attorney, whatever that person is, in the same way that I think a lot of physicians are like, we never like to say I don't know. We think we should know everything. But in the same way, I probably wouldn't take financial advice from my plumber. I would take plumbing advice. Like I also probably wouldn't go to like a GI doctor and say, "Hey, do you think I should get like a heart cath?" And so like
Exactly.
we are experts, and it's okay to pay for the time and support of other experts who dedicate their lives to XYZ.
100%. I thank you for saying that. I couldn't have said it better. But that this is one of the key things that I'm trying to drive point home to doctors as well, is be humble and be
Yeah.
aware of what your weaknesses are.
Yes.
Like
And
when I
it's okay to have
graduated,
weaknesses.
we all do. And if you're not aware, you think you're some, some gift to humanity. Okay, well maybe you are, but recognize where your soft spots are, where you're kind of weak. Finances and business and are usually one of the top ones that doctors have a lack of. So guess what? You get to hire people and you can experiment. Maybe someone works well for you, someone doesn't, right? Or get references from someone else. For me, for example, in the last 2 years, I spent over $50,000 paying mentors who can help guide me in the direction in various aspects of my business, on learning how to build my personal brand, on how to scale my business, how to
Yeah.
become a key person of influence in my space. I've dropped a lot of cash. Why? Not I first identified, are they experts in their industry? I really vetted them properly, and then when I found out that they were, I paid them because I want to buy speed and time. I don't want to be sitting figuring this out on my own. I don't have time. I'd rather not just, build a deck in the back by myself, spending weekends
Yeah.
doing it, because I'd rather pay someone so I can do more important things that are more important to me. Maybe someone likes building a deck, and that's fine. But in my free time, I'd rather spend time with my family, scaling my businesses, relaxing, or just, unwinding, whatever it is,
Literally
doing
whatever
podcasts
you
with
want to
you,
do.
whatever you
You
want to
get to
do.
choose that. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so doctors, the thing is, when we're in residency in medical school, we've been handheld the whole way. And then once we leave, we feel like we've kind of have life figured out in a way. But I felt like I was so underdeveloped
Yeah.
in many ways in my life. Honestly, most ways of my life, I was a very good doctor, but like
Totally.
relationships, I was not very good
Yep.
at, like interpersonal relationships, speaking, finance, absolutely not, business, zero experience, right? Social media, almost none, so, and so on.
Yeah.
And so I was very fortunate that I figured I learned about this by myself very early on, and I started investing in people that could bring me those skill sets very quickly and not have to waste time.
Yeah. Ali, let's move a little into the business of locums. Say somebody wants to give this a try. They're you from many years ago when maybe they're still a salaried employee and they're like, oh, maybe I just want to try this out. Um, what would be a good place or a good contract things to look out for, and what would be red flags that you'd say this is not the place you want to go especially as like maybe a new contract physician.
Yeah, so there's many things. I mean, I think the reason why I even started my own business is because I got played my first locum
Yeah,
gig.
yeah,
And I was like, dude, I can't catch a break anywhere. Like, the government's taking half my money. I'm taking a locum job and they're not giving me paying my worth. And they sent me to a dumpster fire site. I'm like, no one cares about us, right? And so I was like, long story short, I talked to my brother about it. He's like, hey, we can build a business around this. Why don't we research it, so on and so forth. And that was the birth of Locums United, which is why like I basically started the company because I wanted to do right by our doctors. I'm like, I don't want us to have to play the guessing game and then negotiate. Because I'll tell you what happened with me. First job I took, Locums company. I won't say their name. They still exist. Very large one, perhaps the largest. And they lowballed me because and I didn't know my worth. I was taking $200 an hour as my first job. I should have been getting paid at least 300 to 330 an hour. Again, they prey on doctors not knowing their worth
because the
because
just to make it clear, the locums company is trying to has a contract or is trying to fill a shift or a seat for this hospital, and then they're going to get the arbitrage in between what the hospital's willing to pay the company minus what they agree to pay you. Is that correct?
yeah, I'll spell it out for you real
Yeah,
easy.
please.
So let's just use some number for example. Let's say that the hospital is being billed by a locums company, say $400 per hour. And the locum company says, hey, I'll find you a doctor for 400 an hour. Obviously, they're not going to pay the doctor that, they have their own expenses.
Yeah.
So now a recruiter goes out and says, how low can I get this doctor? Because I want the biggest delta here because that's where my commission comes from.
The recruiter gets
So
a
the
commission
recruiter
on,
gets a
yeah.
commission. So they got me at 200, which is low, right? They're like, heck yeah, we got this doctor. He's a board certified ABM doctor. He's a sucker. Great. Now, if I had known my worth, I would have gotten 300. And so now there's a smaller commission here for them. Do you understand?
Yep.
So their goal is to get you to take the least amount so that way
Yeah.
the commission delta is as large as it possibly can be so that way they can go home and enjoy a large paycheck while doing nothing. I don't want to say nothing, but doing very minimal work while we're the ones that are actually working in the ED.
How
And
much is
so
that recruiter getting of that, say, $100 an hour spread? Do you know?
I don't know how much the recruiter takes home. If I had to guess, maybe 10, 15% of the commission.
So every
But
hour you're working,
yes, yeah.
they're getting $15 an hour for you working.
or more, depending if you're
Yeah, or
getting paid,
more.
like
Yeah,
say, whatever that number is.
yeah,
But and I don't have a problem with them making money because they're providing a service. But it's like, give me my worth. Like
yeah.
I'm worth more than that. Like I didn't know I was a sucker because I mean there wasn't as much information about locums back then either. But now it's all over the Facebook and Instagram. People talking about it. I'm putting stuff out there, actual numbers.
Yeah,
I tell ER docs don't settle for anything less than 300.
yeah.
300 per hour should be your like. Don't get out of bed for anything less than that because if you do, you're getting played. So that's one thing to watch out in your contract, really. And I highly recommend that if you're going to be working with a company, just make sure you find someone who can refer you to their recruiter. Because otherwise, like I said, it becomes like a sales game, and they start asking. They're just like used car salesmen in many senses. There are some good ones out there, but I've had some pretty bad experiences. Which is why at our company we actually don't have any recruiters. There's not one recruiter on the team. It's just through
Yeah.
my social media. I start people off at the highest rate at the doctors. I'm like, hey, I'm not negotiating. I'm gonna pay you as much as I possibly can from the get-go, while still building a profitable business. If that works for you, great. If not, great. And doctors have been pretty happy with that.
That's amazing. Ali, tied with this episode, Off Call is going to be launching a comprehensive locums salary transparency report. So anybody doing locums work, can get a better sense of how much can or should I be making? What are the financial trade-offs if I give up benefits? It's all going to be transparent, just like everything on Off Call. So if you're listening, please sign up offcall.com. It's all transparent, but also private and confidential. And we share the aggregate information and the averages so that people can understand the benchmarks in geographic areas and then we try to splice the data as many ways as we can so that people can have a better sense of like, oh, in Minnesota, I shouldn't be saying 300. Maybe I should be asking for 350 or 400 or something like that,
Right.
because we know there is so much geographic variability. And we also try to include like urban, suburban, rural as well, because I think probably for locums that maybe matters even more.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot of it. There's multiple factors that take into account how much you're going to get paid. Regional or geographic is one. Secondly, we're like you said, whether it's rural, urban, suburban, and also just how, I guess, desperate the site is
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
help, right? And that's something that's hard to measure, I guess, unless you actually talk to the hospital and see what their needs are and how soon they need help. Oftentimes, it's very acute, the need, and so if you have a good understanding, if you have a good partner on your side who's going to help make sure that you get paid your worth. I mean, I'll give you an example, man. Last year we posted a job, and yeah, we were paying 375 an hour, and for ER.
Yeah.
This year we've posted several at 350, 330 an hour, and those get filled up quick because docs know, right? They're like, when these jobs are high paying. We get hundreds of DMs and applications for them, and so we have to kind of sift through them and see who's really qualified and whatnot. But that I'm really excited about what you're doing as well. I think that's an immense service to docs as well.
Thanks. Ollie, let's just pretend that I decide, I live here in San Francisco. I decide, I want to be a locums doc. I want to give it a try. Where do I start? I mean, if I talk to a recruiter, they have an incentive to not to pay me as little as possible.
Yeah.
But how do maybe I want to try to do it myself? Are people just looking at job boards? Are people approaching hospitals directly? Like where does a new person get started?
There's no systematized way to do this,
Yeah.
up until what I just launched recently called LocumOS. Now, you can look at these things. Yes, this is what I did when I first started. I
Yeah.
looked at Facebook, which wasn't as well developed back then. I talked to people, but it's like you're just getting little bits of information here and there, and you don't know who to trust. You don't know who's right, who's wrong. And so I basically went back and thought about all the things and mistakes that I made from 10 years ago, and I put them into this training module that we call Locum OS, which is an entire training community platform with live calls with me every week, where we teach you exactly everything you need to know, everything that I've learned over the last 10 years on how to be a successful locum, how to start your journey, how to maximize and optimize it, with all the mistakes that I made that cost me over $200,000
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah. And
And
is that
so
like how to set up your finances in your LLC and all that stuff, or is it like
everything.
practical stuff like, hey, if you're walking into a new ER for the first time, how to set the right tone and expectations of being brand new to this new facility.
Both
Okay,
and
great,
more. So
great.
the second thing that you mentioned, I have a whole module called "How to Be a Rockstar Locum."
Yeah,
Like, how do you make sure that once you get started, that you hear the words when you're leaving from your last shift? Hey, when are you coming back?
yeah,
Like, those are the
yeah.
words that you want to hear because then you know that they like you, right? And I've been fortunate because I've done over 1,000 locum shifts, and I've placed doctors maybe 400 or 500 plus over the last 10 years at facilities as a CEO of a locums company. So I get to see both sides, both ends
Sure,
of the spectrum, and understand what it is that really works for locum doctors. Not just being a good doc, but also from the hospital side, what are they looking for? And what are the things that they see that they don't want doctors come back for? And so, yeah, I've covered it all from travel hacks to credit card rewards to malpractice insurance to which entity to set up, how to get a CPA and a tax advisor, how to get your benefits set up. That's a big problem for a lot of doctors.
sure.
Um, Scheduling mastery, I have like 15 training modules, and it's all
Great.
ACCME accredited for CME as well. So you can use your CME funds.
Cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're really proposing that physicians should be taking locums, which is by definition like a temporary job, and finding a way to turn that into an entire career.
Yes, and good point on that. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. A temporary job in many cases. I'll tell you, for example, the place that I work at right now, I've been there for 6 years as a locum. The last 3 years as a full-time locum, working essentially full-time hours, 100 plus hours. Um, the thing is that people don't realize is that, oh, they always think, and a lot of residents get told this by their attendings, which you are doing your residents a disservice because you haven't worked locums and you're just telling them myths about stuff that you haven't heard from before but aren't true.
Yeah. Or
Is
maybe
that they
used to be
keep
true 20 years ago,
maybe,
but
maybe,
it's been a long
yeah.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
What they say is, oh, don't go because they're all dumpster fire sites and this and that. I'm like, listen, guys, I've worked at a dozen plus facilities in the last 10 years. The first one that the other locals company sent me to was a dumpster fire site.
Yeah.
Everything else has been amazing. The fact of the matter is, again, it goes back to supply.
Yep.
There's just not enough supply of doctors. So guess what? Maybe someone takes a job in middle of Wisconsin. They're not from there, but they had maybe a good package, so they moved there with their family. Then after 3 years, they're like, "Hey, well, I don't want to live here anymore. Like my family's here. I had a kid,
Yeah.
whatever. I want to move back to California." So there's nothing wrong with that place. That site is a very well functional system, but there's just people don't want to stay there for long term. They want to raise their kids there, but they'll go out there for locums, right? Work a few shifts and come back. And so that's the reality of vast majority of hospital systems that need locums. They're not dumpster fire sites. They are just systems that are 2 to 3, 4 hours outside of like the major cities,
Yeah.
and people just don't want to raise a family there.
Yeah. Yeah. Ali, maybe I'll ask you just how you think or approach a locums offer, because obviously everybody's going to have a slightly different family situation and risk tolerance and life view. But maybe this will be helpful just to probably reframe the way most doctors think about this. So. You live in Pennsylvania. Let's say that I'm a hospital and I want to pay you, I don't know, $450 an hour to fly to Michigan, but you have to, fly to Michigan and work 7 shifts in a row. Like, how do you do the math in your head of like, is this worth it to me or not? For somebody that, something that's, well, it's paying a lot of money. It's paying a lot more than maybe you make at your current shop, but you have to fly, you're further away, maybe a time zone
Yeah,
difference. How do you think through the pros and cons of different offers?
great point. This comes down to a mathematical calculation that you have to do for your own based on the site that you're going to and the amount that they're paying you. Personally, like I told you earlier, I have flown to a couple of sites for my work.
Yeah.
Um, for me, it was the cost benefit of me wanting to stay home was greater than the cost that what they were willing to pay me because you lose a day on each end when you're traveling.
Yeah.
And I teach all my locum doctors that work with us. I'm like, listen, if you're gonna go fly into a site, fly in the day before. Not the morning of your night shift, because a
Yeah.
lot of things can happen and you're going to miss your flight. And then all of a sudden, now this department that's already struggling to get staffed is now can't rely on you to be there. So I now just drive to my sites. I'm within a lot of, within 2 to 3 hours, tops 4 hours, a huge area of hospitals that have needs.
Sure.
And so that's how I calculate. And then those ones I can leave the same day if I'm working a night shift, right? I don't lose a day in that respect. So it's just a matter of kind of doing the math. Now, some people for our job in New York, for example, that was paying pretty well. Um, there was like one person that did find it that it was worth it to fly out there, right? Just the pay was good enough. And so it comes down to personal circumstances. Like, are
Yeah.
you willing to kind of lose a day on each end? And is the pay actually worth it? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. So that's just a personal decision I think you have to make. And that's
Yeah.
what I help mentor doctors through my program. Is just like, I'm here to kind of guide you through the entire process, like, and talk through these things because I've experienced it all.
Yeah. There's also a job category, and I don't know how you would think of this, that's like a contract job where they need you. And I think this is less common in emergency medicine, but like they will need a specialist for 3 months. They're covering someone's maternity leave or sick
Mhm.
leave or something. And they say, yeah, we want you for 3 dedicated months working X shifts per month. Or, maybe if
Mhm.
you're an outpatient doctor, yeah, like, hey, for 3 months, we want you 9 to 5, 5 days a week, but you're not on call or whatever. Do you consider that locums, and how do you think about that kind of more, short term but fixed work as opposed to a little bit more of a flexible schedule?
It really depends. I mean, if it's 1099, it's locums, right?
Yeah.
And if it's high paying, it's locums. So I'm open to considering those opportunities. For ER medicine, just because credentialing is honestly, or any specialty really, credentialing is a little bit. It's probably the most annoying part of
For sure.
locums.
Yeah.
And I show doctors how to optimize that part of it as well by just creating a Google folder
Yep.
and just having all your credentialing documents organized. So that way, we know anyone needs anything, you could just send them a link to the folder and
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
done.
Yeah.
Very easy, but it's still, the most annoying part, which can be mitigated. But yeah, so working, three, four, like I prefer to work at places that I know I'm going to be there at least 6 months or longer,
Yeah.
ideally, just because I don't want to credential again and then
Yeah.
learn a new
Yep.
system again and all that stuff. And so I've been very fortunate. And again, being a physician that most of us are in high demand and there's not enough supply, that majority of places that I've been there for at least a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so, most places I've left because because I found a job that I wanted to go to that was different,
Yeah.
it wasn't because they didn't need me anymore. And
You know,
so,
I find a lot of the nurses maybe are even more experienced with this than physicians are. I've worked with a bunch of really great emergency nurses who, they like the rates they get in California, but they live in Alaska or they live
yep.
in Alabama or something like that, and so they'll fly back and forth and just work a bunch of shifts, like kind of like you're doing.
Yeah, it was hot, especially during COVID and after
Absolutely, yeah,
COVID.
yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of nurses that were getting paid really good money, and so kudos to them. They've figured it out. Although I don't know if uh, their travel medicine is considered W-2 or 1099. I thought I heard somewhere that it was still W-2,
It's
which
interesting,
makes
yeah,
it a little less enticing for me. Sure, it's still better money, right? So I'll take it especially if you're young, you want to travel, whatever. But the whole idea for me is like start thinking like a business, increase your 1099 income, even if you're a W-2 employee. It's not all or nothing. That's why I like tell docs too. You don't have to fully commit to locums. Just start picking some stuff up on the side, and then you'll start to see the paychecks that start coming in, the balance and the shift in like how that it's weighted, like your W-2 income versus your 1099, and you can choose to do nothing with that, or meaning that just keep that going, which is fine.
yeah,
But you can at least use that as a way to leverage and reduce your taxable income as well. So it's not all or nothing.
yeah. I've got some quick questions for you in
Sure.
our last few minutes. What's one financial tool you recommend that every locums doc should use?
Financial tool. I would say a CPA and a tax advisor. It's
Yeah,
not technically a tool, but it's do not do this on your own. You're not a finance specialist unless you are. But pay experts for what they're good at, and you do what you're good at and what you're best at. So I highly recommend to just don't try to figure out because you're leaving money on the table likely because you don't know all the nuances. And so the 5, 10 grand that you're paying these people over the course of a year can potentially save you 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand plus because they know what they're doing. So I'd
sure.
highly recommend that.
Yeah. What makes the best locums job you've ever had the best job? What was it about it that you were like, God, I really like working here?
That's a hard question to answer because so many places I've worked at, I've just really enjoyed being there. It's because it's interesting when you're a locum, they actually treat you differently than the W-2 employees in a good way.
Tell me how.
You almost get treated like a guest and like they kind of are happy to have you there. And also, if you're a good doc, they've seen bad docs, like
Yeah,
locum docs
sure.
come
Yeah.
through, and so they're just like, oh my God, thank God you're not like a weirdo, or you're actually a good doc. Wow, like they're actually surprised, right? And so,
Yeah.
and I tell docs it's not that hard. Real quick, there's only four things you got to do to be a rock star locum. Okay, I'm gonna give
Yeah.
you some like game right here. One is to just be responsive when someone emails you from work or from your hospital, whatever. They need something. Be responsive. Don't wait a week or two to respond to them. Show up on time and work hard. If you're getting paid 350 an hour as a locum, don't be seeing one patient an hour because they're keeping track of your metrics. Everyone's watching you when you come in. So work hard when you get there and be respectful and courteous to everyone. The nurses, the techs,
Yeah.
from the top down, everyone, patients, of course. Don't get into any shouting matches with anyone. Don't flirt with your nurses. Just be a professional.
Yeah.
I would, yeah, I have some stories.
Be surprised. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then last but not least, just complete your charts on time. I always say, listen, within 72 hours of your last shift, have remote access if you're flying home, or whatever, you're driving home, get your charts done because if those aren't done, the hospital can't bill for those
Yeah.
charts. And if they're not getting paid, you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
So why make this into a big fiasco? I've had problem with doctors with that as well. You do those four things, man, they're gonna treat you like a rock star, legit. Like people I go into work now, I mean, and they're just like, "Oh, thank God it's you today." And I'm not. I don't think I'm anything special. I just
Yeah.
go and work
Yeah.
hard, and just So it's not that hard.
Yeah. And then, Ali, how do you handle your schedule, your calendar? Do you just say these are the dates available, or is the scheduler sending you what's available, and you're getting the slim pickings, or how do you negotiate that?
Different sites have different ways of approaching this. The vast majority of sites that I've worked at, if as long as you give them advance notice, like I just give my shifts in advance and say, hey, these are the dates I'm available in January, for example. And they'll say, hey, looks good. Or they'll say, hey, could you think you could do this week instead? And
Yeah.
I'll look at my calendar, make sure nothing personal is aligned up. And I say, yeah, sure, why not? So you got to give a little to get a little as
Yeah.
well. You can't just be the doctor like the locum doctor says, you know what, I'm only working Monday through Thursday, 7A to 7P. No, that's what
Yeah.
their employed doctors are working. They need people who are going to be working like the swings as well, some nights, some holidays. The more you got to build equity with your scheduler, right? If you give a little, they'll make sure that they take care of you as well. So it's not about all about just you getting. You have to be able to give some nights and some weekends as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's what any good partnership or contract is. Both parties are getting something that they want and
Exactly.
need. Yeah. And then,
Exactly.
Ali, how do you handle it when, say, one of the physicians you are advising maybe works at two facilities? Do you tell them, hey, we'll give availability the first 2 weeks of the month for one place and the last two or the other? Because sometimes you can get double booked
Yeah.
and people different shifts calendars come out and
Yes.
schedulers and everything. How do you recommend handling that?
Yeah, you got to be extra cautious, and I've made the mistake of kind of double booking myself in that in the beginning, and that can be a problem.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important to just kind of make sure what the timelines look like, and just letting your sites know that, hey, I'm giving my availability for these dates for this, so say we're in September now or October now, you want to give both of your sites availability for January and have them
Yeah.
be offset. Now, if anyone says they can't get back to you in a short amount of like whichever one gets back to you first, basically confirm those first because you don't want to be left at the end and no one confirms you and then you've
Yep.
just kind of like got stuck, right? And so I think it's important to kind of have a very clear communication with your schedulers at the sites that you work at, making sure that they understand that you also work at other sites. And so when you give dates, the sooner that they confirm them, the sooner you can lock them into your calendar. And just be communicative with your locums company and your scheduler that's on site as well.
Yeah.
Really important.
Ali, last question. I've been asking a bunch of different physicians about the Hippocratic Oath, and I would love your take as I think a pretty like honest, straight shooter about just what the practice and the business of medicine is today. So I've been asking physicians how they'd rewrite the Hippocratic Oath for modern medicine. Is there something you would add to your version, subtract, modify, change about what it means to follow the Hippocratic Oath today?
I think a physician that's fulfilled outside of the hospital is a better physician inside the hospital. I think too many of us are burnt out and feeling like we're trapped and feeling like a cog in the wheel, which is the words I hear verbatim, like on repeat
Yeah.
at conferences, on in DMs. And so I noticed that in myself. I'm a better version when I go to the hospital because when I'm fulfilled outside, I'm living a life that I've dreamed of. And when I go to the hospital, I'm happy. My cup is full. My emotional cup is full when I get to work. I have 8 days. I'm like ready to like go. I'm excited. But when you're not that way and you're just feeling like you're just barely getting by and you're just feeling resentful because your job is taking you away from the other things out of your life that are important to you, that becomes a very difficult part of then, you may have noticed it amongst your colleagues or other people that, sometimes people aren't necessarily the best version of themselves when they get back to work.
Yeah.
And so I think the way that medicine is designed today, we have to start taking care of ourselves. Like it's okay to say, you know what, I need to prioritize myself. Like I know as doctors, we're just trained to like think about the patient, but as in when you're training, I remember in EMS, like, you have to first clear the scene, make sure that you're not going to get shot or something before you go take care of the patient. So prioritize yourself and your well-being and your life and your schedule and your family and all those things. And you can do that only with locums. That's the only way that I've found. If someone's found a better way, please tell me because I'd like to know. Um,
That's such a great answer. I agree. I say to a lot of physicians, I think we took the Hippocratic Oath and assumed it meant that because our patients' needs came first, that our needs like don't exist at all. Like that we're not allowed to have needs almost. Like
mhm,
I think
mhm.
that is how it often certainly felt to me like in residency is like, no, I took this thing. This is what I committed myself to. I'm not allowed to even have an opinion about what I need in my life. So, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I thought that was such a great question. Um, Ali, any final thoughts? Where can people find you, learn about LocumOS and everything you're working on?
Yeah, no, I'm on Instagram. My handle is at the real top doc. I'm on Facebook by my name, and then I have thelocumos.com is my
Great.
mentorship slash training platform for anyone who wants to learn and start their journey on locums and take control. And yeah, you can find me on YouTube as well. I have a YouTube channel. So
Amazing. Dr. Ali Chaudhary, thank you so much for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure to talk with you.
my pleasure, man. Thank you so much.